So that wasn't going to work. They couldn't show that she had suicidal ideation. They couldn't show that she had prior suicide attempts. They couldn't show that she had been diagnosed with major depressive disorder. They couldn't show any of that stuff about Lana. All they could show is that she was a normal human being. So what do? They turned to Jennifer Hayes and pumpkin pie. Y'all have been waiting for me to talk about that, hadn't you? Jennifer Hayes and pumpkin pie. What did Jennifer Hayes say? Jennifer Hayes said, Lana Clarkson and me and pumpkin pie were the Three Musketeers. Inseparable sisters. We were each other's confidants. We were each other's go-to gals. We were inseparable. We were connected at the hip. We were the Three Musketeers, according to Jennifer Hayes. I loved Lana. I knew everything about Lana, and I knew the real Lana, which is real convenient, by the way. Oh, all you people, everybody else, all the evidence that says that she was a happy person, oh, that was just the game face Lana. I knew the real Lana. I got down into the dirt with her. I knew the real Lana Clarkson. Really? Did you? One of the first things you said on cross-examination, actually it was direct examination, I think it was a faux pas, I think she wished she could have taken it back. She said, I'm Pie's memory. I, Jennifer Hayes, am Pie's memory. Pie has such a poor memory. Pumpkin Pie can't remember her name if I don't give it to her. She has such a poor memory that I'm actually her memory. What else do we know? We know that Tawny Tyndall, as she is wont to do, interviewed her. But amazingly, there's no recording of that interview. And she interviewed her with another person. She interviewed Jennifer Hayes right alongside another person. Who could that person be? Oh yeah, Pumpkin Pie. The three of them sat and chatted together, and what do you think they did? You think Pumpkin Pie might have helped Jennifer Hayes a little bit get her story straight? We're going to get to Pumpkin Pie in a second, and her motivations in this trial in just a second. But do you think that their testimony sounded just alike enough that it's suggestive that they might have gotten their story straight? One thing's for sure, you, folks, will never know. You'll never know. Because Tawny Tyndall and the defense made sure that those conversations were never recorded. So you'll never know. You have to ask yourself, whose testimony were you listening to when Jennifer Hayes testified? Was it hers? Was it Pumpkin Pie's? Roger Rosen even talked to Jennifer Hayes at one point. That wasn't recorded either. Whose testimony were you really listening to? And then we find out that Jennifer Hayes knows about the cottage. This is the inseparable sister, the person that is closer to her than anybody else. They trade confidences and intimacies. They talk constantly. They know each other's good moods, bad moods. I know the good moods, bad moods, and I, Jennifer Hayes, know the real Lana Clarkson. Really, how long has she lived in the cottage? Oh, as long as I've known her. Absolutely. I've known her 8, 9 years. She's lived there the whole time. Oops. Guess she didn't get that one straight during her conversation with Pumpkin Pie. Lana Clarkson lived in the cottage for about 2 years, a little over 2 years. Jennifer Hayes doesn't even know where Lana Clarkson lived. I'm not saying they didn't know each other. I'm saying you have to question whether or not they knew each other in the way that Jennifer Hayes said they knew each other. Keep in mind, she's got no corroboration whatsoever about their relationship, except one person. Pumpkin Pie. Interestingly enough, you'll have available to you, and I don't suggest you do this, it takes a long time. Actually, I suggest you do it. What the heck? You got nothing but time anyway, right? We presented you with phone records. Cell phone records from Lana Clarkson, cell phone records from Jennifer Hayes. Not one phone call in the last 3 months of Lana Clarkson's life. Not one call received, not one call made. Well, you know what? We're in an email society. They don't talk on the phone. They get together all the time and share their intimacies in email. We know what a prolific emailer Lana Clarkson was, right? So it must have been email. We'll give Jennifer a break. Oops. Not one email. Not one email in evidence that you have between Lana Clarkson and Jennifer Hayes. Whose testimony were you really listening to? Hers or Pumpkin Pie's? And then we have Pumpkin Pie, who without question has chased the limelight from the day Lana Clarkson died. With the memorials that she went to, having her own memorial at some club that she was promoting. She was so devastated, by the way, that she got up that next Tuesday. Lana Clarkson lost her life on Monday. She got up on Tuesday and promoted another club. Oh, I had to be dragged out of bed, and I was dragged out of, the grocery store, and I collapsed, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, please. She was promoting a club the next day. I'm not saying that she wasn't hurt by Lana's death. I'm not being insensitive to her hurt. I'm saying, can you really believe this sob story that Pumpkin Pie was trying to sell you? Let's think about this. You have to test the character and quality of her testimony on this witness stand. Because, folks, the reality is, if it didn't come through that microphone, or it's not presented to you physically, it ain't in evidence. All right? What comes through that microphone is evidence. So you can test how Pumpkin Pie acted and reacted. You can test the character and quality of her testimony just by how she acted on the stand. How was she dressed? Did she come dressed appropriately? Or did she look like she was looking for attention? Everybody thought about that. Of course, the defense got her cleaned up the next time she was called to the stand. Or somebody got her cleaned up the next time she was called to the stand. Did she really look like someone who had just lost her best friend and is in the trial of her best friend's death as she tries to give over the truth about her friend? Or did she look like she was trying to draw attention to herself, just with her appearance, before she even started talking? And I don't think I'm putting too fine a point on it when I say, in trying to determine whether or not she seeks attention for herself, is she the type, is she an attention seeker? She named herself Pumpkin Pie. I mean, it's not like she went home to her mom and said, you know what, I don't like Irene and I don't like Elizabeth and Laughlin, it's not really working for me, so I'm going to change to Susie or Joanne or Michelle. No, she said, you know what, I think I'm going to change my name to a Thanksgiving Day dessert. Pumpkin Pie. Someone who's, and look, she can change her name to anything she wants to. I don't care. I don't care about that. All I'm saying is you have to ask yourself, is this part and parcel of her attempt to draw attention to herself? That's what she craves. The attention on herself. She used Lana Clarkson in life to do that. Tall, gorgeous, beautiful blonde. And she's using Lana Clarkson in death to do that. To draw attention to herself. When we approach sidebar, again, you test the character and quality of everybody's testimony and you watch their demeanor. That's why they testify live in front of you, so you can watch their demeanor. What was Pumpkin Pie doing? We approached sidebar at one point, and Judge Fiddler and Mr. Rosen and myself and Mr. Dixon were all having a discussion at sidebar, and I glance over, and Pumpkin Pie has brought friends, a little entourage, who are sitting in the back of the court, and she's literally smiling and waving from the witness stand. In the murder trial of her best friend, smiling and waving at the audience, drawing attention to herself. And then you have the book deal. Didn't come out on direct examination, but on cross-examination, she admitted, oh yeah, there's something going on, there's a treatment there, and blah, blah, blah. Well, who would buy a book about Pumpkin Pie? I mean, really, if it wasn't for this case, who would buy a book about Pumpkin Pie? Is that something that you think, and you're smart folks, that publishers would try to publish a book about a LA club promoter that does clubs here and there in LA? I don't know. Maybe it'd be a #1 bestseller. I don't know. I don't think so. However, you change that a little bit. You tweak that a little bit, and all of a sudden, Pumpkin Pie becomes the star witness for the defense in the Phil Spector murder trial. Maybe that might sell a book or two. chasing the limelight. That's pumpkin pie. And then, of course, we've already talked about whether or not Jennifer Hayes actually testified as Jennifer Hayes, or if there was some puppetry going on, and literally Jennifer Hayes had been given information by pumpkin pie, say this, don't say this, say that, which none of which, by the way, is borne out by the evidence. No phone calls, no emails. She was asked a question she probably wasn't expecting. How long has Lana lived in the cottage? Oh, the whole time I've known her, 8 years, 9 years. You know, hoping for the best. Oops. And then, as a Hail Mary, there were a couple of Hail Marys in here. When pumpkin pie was brought back to the stand, she said, oh yeah, and by the way, just in case you were wondering, by the way, Lana always has her purse on her shoulder. Why did that come up? Why would that come up? Because the defense knows good and well that one thing they can't get by, one thing they can't get over, one thing that will never, ever make any sense is that Lana Clarkson killed herself while she had her purse on her shoulder. Is having her purse on her shoulder more consistent with committing suicide, or is it more consistent with saying, hell, I'm ready to leave, I'm ready to go home? They can't get past that. They cannot ever get past that because it makes no sense, and they know it. So what do? Here's the Hail Mary. You know what? Pumpkin pie's like Mikey. Remember those Life commercials, the Life cereal commercials? Mikey? Give it to pumpkin pie. She'll say anything. Remember Mikey, he'll eat anything? You know what? We're screwed on this purse issue. We can't get by that. The purse is the purse is the purse. It's on her shoulder. How do we explain that? Oh, well, I got an idea. Just give it to Pie. She'll say anything. Have her testify that Lana constantly had her purse on her shoulder. Every single time she saw her purse was on her shoulder. So pumpkin pie comes to court and she says exactly that. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. Lana always had her purse on her shoulder. And she's out of here. Really. Except for all those photographs that they forgot that they introduced at the parties and at the beach and in Hawaii and in Jamaica and at such and such table and at the Jeff Franklin park. And guess what? Guess what's missing? Oh yeah, didn't think about that, did you? Not one photograph has her with her purse in it. Not one photograph has Lana with her purse in it. They didn't think about that. We know that there is at least one person in this trial who admitted lying. An admitted liar, and that's pumpkin pie. She said, yep, I lied. It's got an excuse for it now. Oh yeah, I lied to Detective Tomlin. I didn't tell him the whole truth. Well, let's see about that. Her first statement to Detective Tomlin, as you recall, was Lana was not suicidal. Lana was never depressed. The only time she was depressed, Lana Clarkson, was when she actually broke her wrists a year ago. And I put my hands behind my back just almost unconsciously because that's how Lana fell. She slipped on a rug and braced herself and snapped her wrists. 21 fractures, 3 surgeries, pins, halos, literally pins drilled into her skin, through her skin, into her bone. Was she depressed then? According to Pumpkin Pie, yeah, she was a little depressed then. Well, my God, who wouldn't be? Who among us wouldn't be? You're not going to get up and click your heels and sing a happy tune the next day after you have spiral fractures in both your wrists. Of course she was a little depressed. Detective Tomlin, was she depressed on February 3rd? Is she depressed now? And remember, this statement came just hours after Lana was shot to death by Phil Spector. No, she's not depressed, and she's definitely not suicidal. Then Pumpkin Pie, chasing that limelight, decides she wants to talk to Star Magazine. She had a pathetic excuse about what happened, but basically it went like this. The family decided they were going to have some dignity about this case. They had suffered enough. They had suffered the loss of their daughter, their sister. They had suffered enough. This case was not going to be tried in the press. So they gave basically standing orders. Nobody close to us will talk to the press. Pumpkin Pie, to hell with it. I'll talk to the press if I decide to. So at one of her clubs, this Star Magazine reporter shows up, and they have a conversation. And remember what Pumpkin Pie's testimony was when she started on direct examination, under direct examination by Mr. Rosen. The direct examination went something like this. Lana Clarkson was my best friend in the world. She was my whole world. She was my sister, my inseparable sister. She was my best friend. We talked 3 to 4 times a day. I knew her better than anybody. Star Magazine article comes out. An anonymous person who claims to be Lana Clarkson's best friend, her best friend in the world, someone she cares about, someone she shares confidences with, someone she talks to 3 to 4 times a day. Pumpkin pie on the witness stand? That's not me. I don't know who that is. That's not me. Right. So Star Magazine comes out, and rightfully so. The family says, you know what? You have broken the cardinal rule. We decided we are suffering, we're mourning, we have suffered the loss of our loved one, and you're out self-promoting at Star Magazine. You're done. You're exiled. It wasn't that formal. I'm putting more formal words on it. Basically, they said with dignity, you know what? We're not going to talk to you anymore. We're not going to give you information. You're not going to be sort of in the inner circle. And that drove Pumpkin Pie nuts. Because where does she want to be above all other places? In the spotlight, in the inner circle. So she wasn't getting information. Then she picks up Vanity Fair. Picks up that article in Vanity Fair, begins to flip through the article, and lo and behold, the Kessel brothers' name is mentioned in the article. And she thinks, wait a minute, you know, I promote at all these clubs all over LA, and Backstage Cafe. They, or one or both of them, are owners or part owners of Backstage Cafe. That could be interesting. That could be interesting. I'm not in the inner circle with the family. Is there someplace else that I could bring attention to myself? She reads that the Kessels are actually the sidemen of Phil Spector. Not just acquaintances, not just buddies long past. According to the article, according to Pumpkin Pie, what she read and what she conceived is that the Kessel brothers were the sidemen of Philip Spector. Like sons to him. Wow, what a connection. And that's the guy that killed Lana. The next thing you know, the next time she talks to the authorities, her stories flipped 180 degrees. 180 degrees. Now, all of a sudden, now Lana Clarkson's suicidal. She's depressed. She wanted to kill herself. Kessels, Backstage. And as of today, she's no longer promoting at Level 1 and Barfly and China Bistro. She's promoting at one place. She gets all of her finances from one place. 100% financial support from one place. Where is it? Where is it? Backstage Cafe. Coincidence?